you, friends, community, for inviting me here today to continue and add to a conversation that I know has already been underway for some time at this congregation. Honestly, I wasn't quite sure where to begin. This is, after all, my first time speaking on a Sunday morning at a Christian church. I will try really hard not to swear. I decided to start with what and where I know best, stepping into my own truth in this moment. And that truth is that I am actually exhausted in my soul and in my heart. I am weary in a way I have never known before. I am tired of arguing with people of many colors about the truth of my own worth in this world. There should be no backlash, no second thought, and no hesitation when I say my life matters. And yet, for far too many people, there is backlash, there are second thoughts, there is hesitation when I say Black Lives Matter. People question it as if it is truly possible to ever question the inherent worth and dignity of any human made alive only through the mysterious divine love that none of us truly, fully understand. Where I am in this moment is in awe of some of my ancestors and in understanding of others. My racial ancestors encompass Black people, Oneida Indian and Cree Indians, and white people. I stand in awe of those who believe in the impossible, those who let that belief fuel them to extraordinary things, things that risk their life for their own freedom, or to risk their own white life for another freedom, or to give sanctuary to a stowaway slave on an Indian reservation. What an act of generosity and love that must have been at a time when that community was in attrition and genocide was at their door. And I am certain that there are some, many actually, ancestors of all races who didn't risk anything at all, who were too afraid, some who didn't agree, some who just had too much money to lose if slavery ended, if that land that was stolen from the Oneidas was actually given back to them. I know there were some Black ancestors who believed the lies they were told about their Blackness and their own inferiority, who said this is how things are, or who even internalized a version of Christianity that outlined for them what it meant to be a good, obeying slave. I stand in awe of some of my ancestors, and I stand in understanding for others. Yet even as I understand, I am called to be unlike those that gave in to the fear, those that went along with the status quo because it was easier and less confusing. I'm called to be more like the ones who, tired, even exhausted, found a way to keep pushing to make things better. I'm called by love, and I'm calling out to you in love today. Now, I did not join the movement for Black Lives because I was angry or saddened or deeply disturbed by the way specifically Black Americans are treated. Even though it is true that I am angry at times, I'm saddened at times, and deeply disturbed. Nonetheless, these emotions ebb and flow. Sometimes it is easier to ignore them than try to fully feel them. I think a lot of people get through their day by attempting to shove those emotions underground so they can get through their day and get their work done. Deep down, we believe what society has told us about what it means to be human, which is to be human means to produce. To make children, to make money, to make food, to make and to do is what it means to be human according to this world. Along with that is this notion that we can be independent and pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. We can stand on our own 2 feet. God only helps those that help themselves. These notions are in moments in our lives when we find ourselves not producing or not producing enough in the right ways, cause us to be ashamed, to feel unworthy, and the page is stuck, to feel somehow broken or incomplete. But the loving sense of God that calls to me, she comes to me even when I cannot help myself. Even after, for instance, I had a back surgery and couldn't walk more than a half a block or clip my own toenails. With what the world tells us, we can't take sick days to be sick because we are racked with guilt and shame that we are unable to produce something. We are racked with shame that someone else has to take care of us. In these moments where we need love the most, we are made to feel most unworthy of it. This idea keeps excuses, buying things and working more than we should, and it's how we justify evils on a grand scale. Evils like mass incarceration, profiteering off the sick and dying through health insurance, and international trade deals that impoverish millions and utterly decimate the earth. This flawed idea is fundamentally untrue definition of humanity. And it is what keeps us focused on anything but the core of our own humanness. That core is love and dependency. Love and complete dependency. Our conception is dependent on others, as are our remains when they are laid to rest at the hands of someone else. This lie about what it means to be human sits like a festering moral sword at the foundation of our lives. The lie of independence and productivity as central to being worthy of anything, but most of all, love. It is like another foundational lie, the lie that Black people were only 3/5 human, which was written into the United States Constitution. These lies were enshrined in powerful documents and, more importantly, in people's hearts and in the American culture itself. These lies continue to corrode our collective soul. The lie that Black people were 3/5 human created the reality of slavery, and it is a reality this country has never come to terms with. The lie that Native Americans were savages means that this building that we are in right now, right here, is on someone else's land. There is no wealth, none in this country, that it can come from someone else's labor on someone else's land. We are dependent on each other, whether that relationship of dependency is one of force or one of harmony. The truth is inescapable. Any wealth that you have right now today is soaked in the blood of Black and American Indian people and continues to exist off the exploitation of millions. Dependency. There is no escaping that fundamental truth. I know some of you at least have probably heard this before, but I bring us into this tension intentionally because it is all too easy to escape in the comfort of our modern day lives and pretend that this history doesn't really affect us, that it isn't really ours. It's all too easy to resign ourselves to system and say, well, there's nothing I can do about that. It's just too big. The lie that we are independent and self-made assures us that we have no role in all of that because we made this ourselves. Yet if we rebuke this lie and embrace the truth of our humanness, that we are dependent upon others, if we embrace that we are capable and worthy of a love unconditionally, that is a sacred love, a divine love, deeper than we can know or understand, the ground shifts a little. What does that mean for us alive breathing today? Alive and breathing on someone else's land, circulating wealth that came from a reality so harsh and evil, it is heartbreaking to even think about. What does justice look like for Black lives in a landscape distorted by half-truths and intentional lies in a world that continues to profit off of Black bodies? I don't have an answer for you, but I know this: the more we hesitate, resting in the comfort of our own lives, living on stolen land, circulating blood-soaked wealth, the more people suffer, the more justice is delayed, and the further we move away from what some call God's love, what I call divine, sacred, ultimately unknowable love. The more we lean into the moral depravity of this world and away from a sense of God that will call us to stand up to these lies and embrace a deeper truth, even as we are afraid, even as there are real risks, and even as we aren't quite certain of the exact thing to do, the more we move away from love. So it is because of this sense of love that I joined the Black Lives Matter movement. I didn't know how to name it this kind of love before I started going to a UU church. But love is what has saved me in my life, time and time again. Love is what pulls me back from the brink. Love that comes through human hands, human mouths, and hugs in so many ways. Sometimes a meal, sometimes a text, sometimes money, sometimes a getaway at a cabin, but the love always comes through people and community. It is a call back into forgiveness, back from the dark reaches of my own mind, which can pull me so deep into shame and self-hatred that I forget. I forget what it actually means to be human. The shame and self-hatred rushes in, and paradoxically, I become less productive and more isolated. It's only when most of the time called back by community, I remember that to be human is to be completely dependent our whole lives, and that to live into love is the way through, that I am able to move again. My Unitarian Universalist faith constantly calls me deeper into love. This is a collective love in a sacred sense. It is a divine love that is within each of our hearts. It is our birthright, not because we produce anything, and not only when we are our best selves, but it is a love that we were worthy of simply because we were born. It is a love we are worthy of even as we are caught in a web of evil. It is a love that is at the center of what it means to be human. This is the kind of love that has two sides, like a coin. On the other side of that coin is justice. Love cannot be without justice, and justice cannot be without love. In the book, From Chaos to Community, Where Do We Go From Here? The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said it like this: justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love. Justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love. But to embrace this kind of radical love that I'm talking about, this sacred divine love, is actually to invite brutality into your life. It is brutal to truly love Black people and to watch families and communities intentionally destroyed for money through the criminal justice system. It is brutal to love trans Black women, to hold them in a divine light, and see them as worthy of love, of acceptance, and all of the beauty and peace that this world has to offer, and watch them brutally murdered. When you embrace that radical love, the brutality of this world comes into sharp focus. Love is brutal. It is brutal because it demands time after time that we recognize the limits of our own hearts and come to terms with the injustice of history that we are living out in our lives every single day. Our human hearts are capable of both infinite love and a callousness that is difficult to comprehend, especially when we look at it on a collective scale. And it's tantamount to evil. Even in our own hearts in this century right now today, love is the way. It is the way out, and it is the way through. It is brutal, and it is beautiful at the same time. There's so much more truth in creating a story of what it means to be fully human based on the ideas of dependence and love. Science bears this out. Our faith bears this out. Our lives are inextricably linked and intertwined and interdependent with other humans, other animals, and the earth itself. We are used to hearing that from hippies and meditation gurus and even some religions. We are used to hearing all that new agey stuff. But when it comes down to it, what does that mean to actually live that? To live into that tension of brutal love and dependence. That tension that even as we have these bodies that are distinct from another person's body, and we have these minds that are isolated from other people's minds, we are actually so deeply dependent on each other that it's a little painful to admit. Again, I don't have the answer. But what I know is that we have choices before us. Nothing in our collective future is inevitable. And if we are bold enough to believe in new stories based more firmly in the truth of our humanness and do away with what we know to be lies, we can create new realities. Every day I let go of shame I have been made to feel because I am dependent on others, and every day, sometimes every moment, I work to invite in more love and let go of more shame. And I am much more interested in the reality that the truth of our dependence and our love creates than continuing to forward the realities that lies that this country was founded on have created. While I truly want to believe in a sense of God's justice, what I know is that the deeper I feel my own sense of divine love for other humans and for myself, the more I am compelled to fight for justice in this world, right now, today, in this life. And my sense of justice is in alignment with the understanding that justice is love correcting everything that stands against love. What stands against love now are many things. Indifference, hesitation, those are part of it. One of the foundational beliefs of this movement is that we are all connected, that we are all worthy of love and dignity because we are human, that we are dependent on each other. So you will see the Black Lives Matter people showing up at the rally for immigrant justice. You will see us fighting for trans lives. You will see us at the intersections because we know this deeper truth, and we see the beauty of the world that can be created when we live this out. The future is not inevitable, and it is decided by you and me living our lives every day. Black Lives Matter. It's the name of a movement, it's the name of an organization, it's the name of a theology. At the heart of the Black Lives Matter movement is a theology of love. A radical love for all people, queer Black people, trans Black people, formerly incarcerated Black people, disabled Black people, all Black people. It's not a hierarchical love. It's a simple proclamation in the face of a cruel history that has denied this truth for far too long. This movement proclaims a daring and bold love that is so powerful, that runs so deep, that those who dare to embrace it feel what MLK calls a divine dissatisfaction. I call it a holy unrest. It is inviting that brutality that comes with loving hard into your consciousness. You can stand on the side of love with the Black Lives Matter movement, or you can stand still and fall in step with the heartless and false ways of the world. There's no fencing. If you find yourself hesitating or wondering, ask yourself, which of the ancestors will you be? Will you be the one who dared to move through the fear, walking in a certitude of love in their heart, or will you be like the ones who clutch to their possessions, their comfort, and their ideas of independence and superiority, while other humans suffered beyond measure? I know who I want to be. I also know it's exhausting and I am tired. I need your help. I take strength from the knowledge that I am a mixed woman, Black woman, standing here with a master's degree and a full-time job. I am not a house slave, subject to rape and degradation every day of my life. I don't have to face my children being ripped from my arms and sold into slavery. I am instead free because others believed that the future is not inevitable. They believed in loving themselves, in loving each other, and working through their faith across lines of race towards justice, towards love, correcting everything that stands in the way of love. So yes, I am exhausted and tired, and I will keep going until Black Lives Matter as much and in the same ways that white lives matter. Until Black people are seen in the light of their full humanity, until each and every Black person is seen as a unique and sacred spirit, worthy of love, and worthy of the everyday beauty and peace that this world can offer. When the least among us are afforded the potential to live into their full humanity, then and only then will all boats rise together, bound together, in a single garment of destiny, that single garment called love. Affirming Black Lives Matter is just the beginning. Fighting to make that a reality in a world that profits heavily off of imprisoned Black bodies and that hyper-polices Black communities is where the work truly lies. Will you stand with me? Will you fight with me? What kind of ancestor do you want to be remembered as? Love correcting everything that stands against love will not win until the inherent worth and dignity of every Black person is fully recognized. That is when justice will prevail, at least for this battle, this time. I want to leave you with a quote and an idea that MLK actually borrowed from a Black woman who identified as a Unitarian and as an African Methodist Episcopal. Her name was Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. I'm thankful to my friend and colleague Kenny Wiley for publishing these words about her, because I didn't know this before. It was in May 1866, waging a dual campaign for women and for civil rights, that Harper delivered this message to the National Women's Rights Convention in New York, saying before thousands, We are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity, and society cannot trample on the weakest and feeblest of its members without receiving the curse in its own soul. That's what she said in 1866. Let us fight together now this inherited curse. Let us fight in love and embrace a new truth. A truth that humanity is based on dependence and love. I need you. You need me. We need each other. Amen.
Amen.